Regular session, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval and amendment of meeting agenda items.
The agenda is as presented.
Motion?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
And moved and seconded to approve the meeting agenda items as presented for October 30th, 2019. Approval of minutes?
We need a vote.
All those in favor?
Oh, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Approval of minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of October 9th, 2019 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of October 9, 2019 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Correspondence?
I have none.
Public comment? Reports?
Well, we're going to talk about the Student Success Act, and it's the beautiful colored, additions in your board packet. Last spring, the governor and the Oregon State Legislature passed the Student Success Act, which will deliver $1 billion to schools in the next 2 years. Where it goes beyond that in the next biennium, I'm not sure. But anyway, for the time being, on the first page, the Student Success Act is going to provide funding to schools in this form and fashion. 50% of it is going to go into a student investment account. That's the name of that piece. That's what's going to roll out to public schools K-12. 20%, I went to an early learning meeting the other day. Jack Thompson and I were headed around the state. We heard a lot of talk from special interest groups about the need for more early learning programs, more preschools, define those preschools, what they were going to look like. Currently preschools are, in the way of Head Start or private preschools, Lakeview has a real shortage in the preschool world. But that's a separate entity that does not fly under the roof of the school district. That's basically, in our area, it's a Southern Oregon Early Learning Hub, which I'm a member of that committee. So basically we initiated conversations about that last week when we had the meeting. So as that develops, I'll keep you up to date. The 30% piece, the bulk of that goes to higher education, community colleges, universities, and those. I haven't really seen any clear definitions as far as what that's going to look like. What it means for this district, the next page. Basically, we have to do our homework, we administrators, and we have to tie attracting these dollars to these following things. What is the student investment account? Well, the things that they have listed here, new money for two purposes: meet students' mental and behavioral health needs. The second one is to increase academic achievement and reduce academic disparities for students of color, students with disabilities, emerging bilingual populations, and students navigating poverty. So what it's going to entail is going to happen. We have a lot of data from ODE already as far as what those populations look like, but we are required to get out and do a couple of community engagement pieces. And you see on the little colored timeline up here, they're expecting us to roll something out in September or October. Well, it was a little bit of a problem. Jack Thompson and I talked about the other day, ODE really hadn't rolled anything out to us yet to go to the public with. But now we do have something to go to the public and ask questions. ODE has also rolled out some sample surveys, addressing these specific questions as far as these special populations and everything. And I got a copy of a survey today. We're working very hand in hand with the ESD on this because the ESD is charged for directing a lot of this activity. And Jack Thompson has sent me at least 3 or 4 surveys. One that really caught his eye was one from Coos Bay. It's a very politically correct survey that asks specific questions relating to all these specific areas, things about poverty, race, gender, etc. The thing for us that we're going to need to address, we will submit an application on March 15th, and we have to show a lot of data in these areas. And right now, as far as the money to this school district projected, is around $650 ADMW. So what it means for this district would be around $600,000+ to this district. Now, you know, you look down here on the giant pencil at the bottom of the page, if you can tie these specific things to these areas on the bottom of the page, you know, that's what you need to do in order to make this grant successful. There's two things on here that just really catch my eye immediately. The class size issue, that's what we're specifically dealing with down at the elementary right now, and the other one is the health and safety issue. I asked about things such as, you know, building safety, school resource officers, and things like that. If you could tie the need of these special groups to that, that would support that entity. So that's what it's looking like right now, right? You know, all these acronyms, the SSA, the Student Success Act, the SIA, Student Investment Account, and then I'm working on what is called the SIP, Consolidated Improvement Plan, which the state has moved it from deadline to deadline to deadline. The initial deadline was back in June 30th. The next deadline was August. You know, I've been working on it for about the last month, putting it all together. The next deadline is November 1st. I'm pretty well ready to go, but now, they've now moved it to December 6th. So, anyway, when we get that done, administrative team and I will go through that, hone it, fine tune it, and, you know, a lot of these things we have to address in that. There are some pieces of that they said you can basically cut and paste out of that and roll over into this. All these things, you know, as we develop them, you know, the big thing of it is that they have to have board approval. So as we go through this process, you'll be seeing the Consolidated Improvement Plan. And as the SSA plan is developed, that has to come your way for approval too before we send it off to ODE. So that's it in a nutshell. Do you have any questions? If we can make this successful, $600,000 is, you know, a nice shot in the arm.
So I'm sure the admin has probably discussed this already.
Yeah.
And so it's 600,000. I mean, it's a lot of money, but realistically, you're looking at salary, benefits, 6 or 7 teachers, or some combination of certified, classified. So are we looking more at personnel? Is initial ideas for utilizing this plan, personnel for more aides in classrooms, more classrooms with more teachers, or teachers to split classrooms?
By the way this act is worded, we're looking at more teachers and reduced class sizes. That's basically what they're looking at on that. Not so much the paraprofessional piece, but they want actual teachers in rooms and reducing class size.
So on this plan, how long is this plan? Is it good for a biennium?
I believe it is good for a biennium. So.
Problem is we don't have room for more teachers.
So, I was just thinking part of that too is try to get the current buildings we have functional again, i.e. DMS.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that 600,000 ain't gonna cut it after we saw the seismic thing. You know, and to add a resource officer into that mix, you know, where you're splitting it and whatnot, but it might open up a classroom or two for us.
Yeah.
Never know what
In
it
that.
might do. Yeah.
Maybe in that building,
Yeah.
maybe that makes a difference,
Yeah.
one way or another.
Yeah. Well, this thing, it's fairly flexible though. It also supports infrastructure, so.
And are we discussing a resource officer as well in this?
Yeah, last time we had the public safety meeting, it was one of the topics at the forefront between Sheriff Taylor and I. Sheriff Taylor and I have been talking. I have, you know, just exhausted the internet trying to find a school resource officer grant. Lane pointed me to something yesterday, hospital in Douglas County, correct?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a look at that. Mike Taylor, in my conversations with him, he hasn't had much luck as far as attracting a resource officer. So he proposed, and I'm going to scare the business manager here, he proposed
Super.
possibly possibly, as the year goes on, we look at our budgets and the school district, the county, and the town come together and do a three-way split on funding a school resource officer.
Well,
So,
that's not scary. If you said it was just us, then I
Well,
might be scared.
I eased your pain just a scotch, but that's what we're
Fleece
thinking.
on
If
the
we can't
town.
generate a grant, that's what we're thinking about.
I'm just not sure why we gotta pay to have law enforcement in our schools when law enforcement is there for the entire community. And the schools are a pretty big part of the community, so just have some issues with that
Yeah.
from a personal standpoint.
I'm not giving up on grants, I'm gonna keep busting my hump to try to find a grant someplace, but right now, I was pretty much on there last week, an entire afternoon trying to find something, anything, and I just couldn't find a thing.
When I would think from a law enforcement standpoint that if we could address issues here, it saves a lot of issues
I
when they're
would say
older.
so, yeah.
But
But discussions are ongoing with Mike, and I'll report back to you on that, but, like I said, Barry was at that one, I think you were at that last meeting, and that was one of the main topics, is try to pursue a school resource officer. We haven't had one since, the big budget trials of 2008, and at that time, we partnered with the town on that, it was a 50-50. And, with the budget thing, basically, the budget thing hit the town equally as hard as it hit District 7, and that position went away, unfortunately. So that's been 10 years ago.
I think it's great. Can't wait to see the plans. Anytime we're talking funding for biennium, I mean, it's no different than our budgets, but we know that there isn't gonna be a wholesale change in the way that our ADM figures in our budgets. It's just, I'd hate to see us plan and add staff and do these wonderful things, and then in 2 years go, sorry,
Yeah.
we don't have anything for you.
Well, that's kind of a common theme in grants and education and everything else, They throw a lot of money at you, and a year or two later, it goes away. Well, you need to be sustainable, and sometimes that's tough to do. Any other questions? Okay, I will give you updates as we go through the process here and let you know what's going on. And then there's some more meetings on the horizon that, that they're having the superintendents come to, so I'll keep you updated.
Full business?
I don't see any on here. I think we're clear in that regard there, Mr. Chair.
New business, tuition rate approval.
Okay, so if you look at your tuition calculation worksheet that I submitted in your packet, this is based off of 17-18, that's because those are my last audited financial statements that I have. 18-19 is in the works, and so what this relates back to is getting to what are we gonna charge the tuition per day per kid, coming from Adel, Plush, and MODOC. So basically a lot of numbers calculate back out, and what I do at the actual cost, so you'll see at Union it cost us in 17-18 51.79 a head. Fremont 80 Hay is 51.16, DMS is 43.95 with LHS at the largest at 71.30. And when I first started here, we went to a just an average of all of those four numbers, making it easier so we don't have to think about really or jab the high school kiddos for more or whatever. And we kind of come to that agreement a long time ago between Adel, Plush, and MODOC. So that averages back out to 54.58 per day per kid. MODOC, we have quite a few kiddos. Gosh, I can't even remember what the last count is now because it's been kind of bouncing around in the first part of the year a little bit, but we have quite a few of those kiddos. And then Adel, I believe there's 6 on there, and then in Plush, I think there's 5 to 6. And so there's quite a few kids, and Adel and Plush is strictly high school versus MODOC is K through 12. So what I'm looking for is an approval of the 54.58 based on audited financials of 17-18, which you'll see further down in your consent agenda, the Adel, Plush, and MODOC contracts to start billing them for those kiddos that attend school here.
I move to approve the 2019-20 tuition rate approval as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2019-20 tuition rate approval as presented. Is there any final discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Announcements.
Well, I want to do a couple of dedications to two of our employees. I'm going to read Matt's email that I put out during after Tony Shannon passed away. It's great sadness I report the passing of former District 7 employee Tony Shannon. Tony passed away at the Lake District Hospital about 3 weeks ago. Over the years, she advanced to the additional position of district trainer for new bus drivers, supervised the core instructional training activities for driver certificate renewals. She was always at the forefront to take on athletic trips, activity trips, and so on. For many years, she drove the midday kindergarten route, and also she was the bus driver, began in 1993 as the driver for the new Pine Creek route. For many years, she was the president of the Oregon School Employees Association, a position she held with a great amount of pride and distinction. She always gave her very best to representing the classified employees in District 7. Tony's funeral ceremony was well attended, and I'm extending a big thanks to Janet and the bus drivers. They had a bus procession to take Tony's ashes and her family and the mourners down to the new Pine Creek Cemetery. And the amount of comments I received on that, the public and the people that attended, were very complimentary of that. So my hat's off to Janet and our bus drivers for putting that together. We will miss Tony. Her kindness, her generosity to students was unmatched by any individual that I've ever seen. So anyway, we will miss Tony, and she was a real asset to District 7. Another recognition of Sandy Lisney. Sandy has she's retired into PERS, however, luckily, unfortunately, she is still in this district and will continue for the remainder of the year. Sandy has been in the district for 30 years, and she is a multi-talented individual. She's held numerous grade levels. Just in the time that I worked with her down at Fremont Hay, she was 4th grade, 5th grade, 2nd grade, kindergarten, and now she's at Union School teaching grades 2 through 4. Invaluable employee and a real credit to our school district, and I congratulate her on her retirement of hers.
And also you guys had requested that we send her a bouquet of flowers upon her retirement, and so that was taken care of along with a card from all of us in here, and Will took that out with a bonus retirement check.
I personally delivered to her out of Union. She was totally surprised.
Yeah.
A nice surprise.
That's great. Any other announcements?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Next board meeting agenda items?
We have OSBA policy updates. We'll have 2 rounds of them, November and December. We have an ASB report, building principals report, special education report. Ms. Watts is going to bring her 3rd graders down.
She's actually moved to December.
Oh, has she?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm glad we got a fix on that.
Yep.
Okay, maybe Lane, you mentioned something about FFA? Okay. Tandy, would it be okay if we traded that out with FFA?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We'll have consent agenda on the elementary volunteers. And initially Dustin asked for talk about 4-day school week. We will in December when we have more data to report to you. So we figured we need to get more in the way of information in order to have that discussion. So that's December. And that's what I have.
Okay. Get to vote on the OSBA policy update.
I think there's 21 of them this time, so I split them in 2. 10 one time, 11 the next time, so.
IKF coming back at you for another go.
All right, adjournment.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.